I will now call the March 8th, 2024 meeting of the Sustainability and Economic Vitality Committee to order at 1 p.m. As expected, our committee covers topics related to sustainable initiatives and the economic vitality of our great city. Note that no formal votes or decisions about city programs, policies, or budgets will happen here. Our role is to explore various topics with staff and stakeholders and community members and to make recommendations to our council colleagues. And I should note that I'm joined by the Vice Mayor who is online with us right now. We want this process to be transparent, inclusive, and easy for you to be a part of wherever you choose to be. And you can share your thoughts with us by filling out a comment card about any item on a meeting agenda or by reaching out to us directly with any other thoughts, questions, or ideas. The link to the comment cards can be found on our committee webpage at tempe.gov/SEV, and you'll find contact information for committee members and staff there for non-agendized questions as well. Vice Mayor Adams, are you on?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Councilmember Chen. The next item on our agenda is item number 2, review and approval of meeting minutes from the February meeting of the Sustainability and Economic Vitality Committee. If there are no objections, I move that we approve the minutes from the February 9th, 2024 meeting as written.
I have no objections and I second that motion. So the February minutes are unanimously approved. The next item on our agenda is item 3A, public comments. This committee welcomes public comment. According to Arizona open meeting law, the committee may only discuss matters listed on the agenda. Matters brought up by the public under public comment that are not listed on the agenda cannot be discussed by the committee. A 3-minute limit per person will be in effect. Ty, do we have any comment cards or requests to speak for this meeting?
Thank you, Councilmember Chen. We have not received any comment cards.
I'll look to the audience. Is there anyone who has suddenly come up with an idea that they would like to talk about at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on. The next item on our agenda is item 4A, current items and updates, and we'll begin with item 4A1, a presentation on the Rio Reimagined project. Maggie Sofel from Rio Reimagined is here to give us the update.
Thank you. Is there one I should speak into? No? Okay. Okay. Thank you for having me today. My name is Maggie Sofel. I'm with Arizona State University's University City Exchange Office, and I represent the Rio Reimagined initiative. And I'm here today to provide you with an overview of the initiative, where we've been in the past and where we're headed. So I just wanted to start to acknowledge here that the Salt and Gila River corridor has been used by the Akimel O'odham and Peepash people since time immemorial to support traditions and agriculture, and it remains an important cultural, religious, and environmental resource for the peoples of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community and the Gila River Indian community today. Going back all the way to 1967, the ASU architecture class of that year developed the first concept plan for the Rio Salado. Here you can see the presentation that they gave for that 40-mile proposed development concept from Mesa through Phoenix. And that master plan was designed to improve the region's environmental quality and economic vitality along the dry Salt River bed. Over the next several decades, various master plans were drawn and changed, different advisory groups were formed, legislation was pursued at the state level to create various funding mechanisms to get the Rio Salado project off the ground. A master plan for 38 miles from Mesa through Phoenix was eventually created in 1985 by the Rio Salado Development District, but was vetoed by the voters countywide in 1987. At that point, Tempe Mayor Mitchell decided to develop Tempe's portion of the river. And here you can see a conceptual development plan for Tempe Town Lake from 1995. Mayor Mitchell's successor, Mayor Giuliano, invested in the creation of the 2-mile-long Tempe Town Lake that we know today. And as most of you probably know, the groundbreaking ceremonies for Tempe Town Lake took place in 1997, and the lake was filled with water in 1999. So here you can see the most recent master plan completed in 2018 for the Rio Salado and Beach Park, which is currently being implemented by the city. Since that time, many of the cities and the communities along the Salton Gila River have pursued discrete projects and plans to improve the corridor and their reaches of the river, from parks and trails to habitat restoration and flood management. The late Congressman Ed Pastor and the late Senator John McCain both championed the notion of revitalizing the river corridor on a regional scale. And in 2017, Senator McCain catalyzed the charge by convening the elected leadership along the river corridor to sign a statement of intent. This included the 6 cities along the corridor, including City of Tempe, the 2 tribal nations, Maricopa County and the Salt River Project. And this agreement really established a commitment to actualizing the river corridor as an iconic landmark for the valley. As part of this statement, ASU was identified to be the facilitator and convener for this initiative, and it's a role that we continue to serve in today. So here in this picture, you can see the original signatories of that statement of intent at the formal launch in 2018 at the Tempe Center for the Arts. Today, Rio Reimagined is a shared visionary revitalization initiative spanning over 55 miles of the Salton Gila River corridor. You can see here the unofficial boundary study area of the Rio Reimagined initiative, which includes the communities 1 to 2 miles roughly above the banks of the river channel. Conditions along the corridor are very diverse, from the robust infrastructure we see here at Tempe Town Lake to the more natural ecosystem conditions in the West Valley, like the Tres Rios wetlands and Basin Meridian Wildlife Area. There's also diverse land ownership, from federal land managers to mining industry and agricultural uses across this stretch. The Rio Reimagined initiative presents an opportunity for us to elevate the discrete projects and plans along this 55-mile corridor and to look through a regional scale lens at how to leverage our resources towards shared goals. So over the last 5 years, since the formal public launch in 2018 with the signing of that statement of intent, Rio's really been in a startup mode for an initiative that's going to take decades to actualize. When the initiative first launched with the signing of the statement, we also formed the Rio Reimagined Partnership at this time. And through our partnership, we started to strengthen our relationships with federal agencies and our delegation. In 2019, we received unanimous letter of support from our federal delegation for inclusion in the Urban Waters Federal Partnership Program out of the EPA, which I'll discuss in a moment. In 2020, our region formally received designation in this program, and in 2021, the Rio Reimagined Partnership continued to expand with more engagement by our nonprofit and community-based partners. Grant funding continued to increase for projects in the corridor in 2022, and this past year, in 2023, we really started to enter a new phase for the initiative, which started with expanded professional staff capacity, a multi-organizational leadership structure, and an emphasis on federal funding opportunities. Today, the Rio Reimagined Partnership is a robust, diverse group of organizations interested in revitalization of the river corridor. The partnership includes the public sector agencies you see here, the private sector, nonprofit partners, community-based organizations, and so many more that are listed here. This is just a sample of those organizations involved in active projects along the river corridor. ASU convenes this partnership on a bi-monthly basis for partners to share their work. We bring in speakers from other watersheds and share upcoming river events and resources for our partners. And it's really through this partnership that we recognize that our region will be more successful, will gain more together by working as a partnership, securing higher levels of funding and having a more significant impact. In addition to convening the partnership, ASU also has centralized the communications for the initiative with our website. It's an opportunity for our partners to share their news, projects, and events, and we also produce a quarterly newsletter highlighting these activities. So as I was discussing before, the Urban Waters Federal Partnership is a program out of the US EPA. It is a program that's supported by 15 different federal agencies and over 28 national nonprofits that is focused on reconnecting urban communities with their waterways by improving coordination among federal agencies. So we are one of 21 different locations in this program across the United States that receives funding specifically allocated to urban waters locations. We receive streamlined assistance between the federal agencies. We have access to a learning network, and we have now a point person in the form of a local ambassador to coordinate our federal engagement, and I'll speak to that position momentarily. Over the last several years, grants to our Rio Reimagined partners have totaled over $30 million, $25 million of which is attributed to the US DOT grant that the City of Phoenix received for their 3rd Street Bridge project. But there is so much activity that's gone on in the corridor, with this funding, from local food systems to brownfield assessment and cleanup projects, habitat restoration, urban forestry, and so much more. There is so much activity happening in the corridor, and this is just another sampling of some of the more specific efforts that are underway. A lot of the communities across the corridor are in the process of developing long-range plans that relate to their reaches of the river. So the City of Phoenix is in the process of kicking off a community planning effort for their 20-mile stretch of the Rio. The Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community is updating their general plan, and they're looking at their reach of the river. And then you're probably all familiar with the City of Tempe last spring being selected for the inaugural US DOT Thriving Communities program, which provides the city with technical assistance to advance equitable and place-based transit-oriented development infrastructure projects in the Apache Corridor, which is located within the Rio Reimagined study area. And that will position the city to obtain federal funding in the future. The project team is a partnership among community-based organizations, Rail CDC and Pinnacle Prevention, with private sector partner Cul-de-sac and the Knowledge Exchange for Resilience at ASU as a research partner. So it's just a great example of the partnerships that are formed in these types of projects. Oops. There's also a lot going on in the corridor as it relates to trails and greenway connectivity. The Maricopa County Board of Supervisors recently adopted their Parks Vision 2030 plan, which identifies goals for preserving and restoring river corridors for public recreation and ecosystem services. It also identifies trail connectivity along the river corridor, which has been highlighted as a significant priority among a lot of different partners in the region. In keeping with that, the Maricopa Association of Governments is also in the process. They will be releasing an RFP in the coming weeks for a Rio Reimagined active transportation planning study, which will address the trail connectivity and active transportation needs along the entire 55-mile corridor. The City of Tempe is also looking at trail enhancements in the northern part of the city. And then the voters in the City of Goodyear authorized their first general obligation bond since 2004 to implement the city's Parks and Rec master plan, looking at implementing trails and multimodal connectivity down ultimately across the Gila River and into Estrella Mountain Regional Park. There's also a lot of work being done around land acquisition and sustainable development. The City of Phoenix voters also passed a general obligation bond this past cycle, which included over $23 million to serve as a catalyst for economic development along the Salt River. The cities of Avondale, Phoenix, and Tempe are continuing to implement a coalition grant for brownfield assessment and cleanup for parcels within the Rio Reimagined study area. Grant funding is still available for Phase 1 and 2 environmental site assessments, and the Hayden Flour Mill redevelopment project has taken advantage of that program. And the City of Tempe continues to implement the Rio Salado and Beach Park Master Plan, and city staff are currently reviewing submissions for passive, concession-based recreation on the town lake. Finally, there are many ecosystem restoration projects in the pipeline, from the Rio Salado Oeste project in the City of Phoenix to the planting of a new pollinator garden at Estrella Mountain Regional Park, and then many invasive species removal projects occurring in the West Valley. So as I mentioned before, we are in this new phase of Rio, sort of kicked off in 2023. And here you can see the multi-organizational leadership structure that we're working within today. The initiative now has an ambassador to the Urban Waters Federal Partnership Program, Cindy Patak, her position is housed at MAG. The ambassador's role is to identify federal grant opportunities to help position partners in the region compete for federal funding. The City of Tempe is one of 10 funders of Cindy's position, with representation on an advisory group, which provides oversight of her position. And she serves all of the partners of Rio Reimagined, including the City of Tempe. The team at ASU continues to house the operations of the initiative in terms of communications, convening the partnership, and supporting the work of our partners along the corridor. City of Tempe staff attends the bi-monthly partnership meetings and is always welcome to present updates to that group. And then finally, Greater Phoenix Leadership, as you may have heard, is in the process of establishing a new nonprofit organization to support the Rio Reimagined initiative and to leverage and engage the private sector and philanthropy. So where are we headed? With all of the expanded capacity of the initiative that I've described, the strong partnerships, community, and political support, there is momentum here that needs to be channeled. Today, partners are working on a lot of different projects in the corridor, as I've described, but there's really no uniting plan or framework. And certainly the Maricopa Association of Governments Active Transportation Plan will be the first regional scale corridor-wide plan that we've ever had for the Rio Reimagined study area. There are additional themes that could be explored through regional scale planning for the corridor. And any sort of regional scale framework or plan would connect the discrete projects to expand their impact and significance, would stimulate private sector investment, would provide a foundational narrative for the region to compete for federal infrastructure funding, and it would help to guide future local planning, development, projects, programs, and infrastructure investments. So we are working closely within that multi-organizational leadership structure to explore the next steps for that. And thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Vice Mayor Adams, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. What an incredible, this is the growth and expansion of a undergraduate project or assignment, that's what it was really, that started 61 years ago. That's ridiculous. That's incredible. And I 61 more years from now, I wonder what it will look like. Well, thank you. And let us know if there are updates where you would like to come back and share through this committee. I think we would be interested in that.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 4A2, an update from Tempe's Chamber of Commerce. And I think we have Chamber President and CEO, Mr. Colin Diaz, with us.
Good afternoon.
Welcome, Colin.
Thank you for having me. So Colin Diaz, President and CEO for the Tempe Chamber. Vice Mayor Adams, I know you're joining virtually, and Councilmember Chen, thank you for allowing me to share just some updates on what the Chamber has been working on as it relates to sustainability as well as economic vitality. So just to give a point of reference, our sustainability principles or priorities, initially to advise and educate. So we want to promote the best practices that some of our chamber members already have in place for using the natural environment and how it relates to the economic vitality, sustainable practices as well, foster an environment that provides flexibility, and then also the policy tools to support that. And then lastly, the balance between economic and environmental factors. And so today I'm just going to talk briefly about the 6 areas where our work has touched. So education, engagement, advocacy, collaboration, efficiency, and looking at that as how that ties into the circular economy and resources. So the first of those areas are education and engagement. We have a sustainability committee that meets monthly for the Chamber of Commerce, and this is a collection of various businesses, small and large, including Tempe Marketplace, which Jonathan Yee is the chair of our sustainability committee. And so there's a lot of practices they have in place over at Tempe Marketplace. Our Health, Wellness, and Sustainability Summit is an event that grew out of, we usually do an annual sustainability summit, excuse me, and this last year we added the health and wellness component because there's an overlap there, and we have a partnership with SRP, and that last year's event had about 100 to about 120 people there. We had 2 different panels talking about everything from energy and sustainability to health and wellness and the well-being of our employees. So when we look at sustainability, obviously there's the initial thought about the environment, but the other component of the employees and those that come to live, work, and play in Tempe is important. and our sustainability pledge. So we've started this in 2017, and at the time we were either the first or second chamber in the entire country that had such a pledge in place, which really looked at the businesses as a triple bottom line. So it wasn't just about profitability, it was about their impact within the community, as well as their impact to their internal stakeholders with their employees. This year, we changed a little bit of what we were doing with the Sustainability Committee. So rather than just having meetings, we wanted to get out in the community, see some of the best practices, learn about things that are going on. Chuck Chadovich is from the U.S. Chamber and came and spoke, actually spoke virtually to us for one of our sustainability meetings in August about what's going on at a national level from a policy standpoint. Our Sustainability Committee also toured Cul-de-sac, which is one of the gems here in the city of Tempe in terms of sustainable practices, being a vehicle-less housing development with a lot of other amenities, and with its location right on the light rail on Apache has been something that the committee has, we've received a lot of input and calls from people throughout the country. And then Rob and Mulaney Walton Center for Planetary Health at ASU, we had a tour there and learned a little bit more about some of the practices that they're doing. As it relates to collaboration, City of Tempe's clean energy, we've had a partnership there for quite a while, but this specific element of it, we were able to hire an intern that started to conduct a study for us. We are nearing the time to be able to report on that study, and be happy to share that with the full council as well as this committee. But really looking at what businesses are currently doing in sustainability, where they are of some of the support for that, whether it be rebates, whether it be how much they're doing to educate their employees, and whether that's something that helps with retention and attraction. And then Local First, we partnered with them, or actually we leveraged a program they had in place with their Green Business Certification and made that available to our members, and we're looking at growing on that partnership in year 2. And then the circular economy and advocacy, SRP and APS have been huge partners for us, but also Fabric Next Door with some of their clean energy and sustainable, really waste reduction practices. And then through the East Valley Chamber of Commerce Alliance, which we are members, and I am the chair-elect, we've looked at things as it relates to the valley as a whole, because similar to other challenges and opportunities we have, as the great work we do in Tempe, we may be leading the way, but a lot of these are regional solutions. And this was the sustainability pledge that I mentioned earlier. Businesses were able to opt in. Happy to say the City of Tempe has also been a partner from day one for that, as is ASU and many of our other important players in the community. So we have this. This is allowing businesses to go on at any time to see just simple measures they can take to move their businesses in the right direction. Those that are already involved can look at a little bit of even deeper interaction. If you see at the top kind of right of the screen, the success story, we post those to talk about what businesses have done, in hopes not just to celebrate the wins, but also to give insight and motivation to other businesses. And then from an economic vitality standpoint, we have a myriad of events. I'm just going to touch on a couple. Just in January, we had our Economic Outlook. This is our second annual, where we've got a panel speaking about finance. We had one that was speaking on hospitality, tourism, and this year it was speaking about the arts, which is quite appropriate for the timing, as I got to experience a few thousand of our friends that are commuting downtown through Arts Festival. So. But in addition to that, our mentoring program, where we're working with new entrepreneurs or those that are a little bit more, a little greener, if you will, in their pursuits, and pairing them with established business owners. And that has been a really strong program that we've had for a number of years. And then this slide, I'm proud of a lot of the work that we do, but this is one that stands out. Career Ready Tempe. If you go and ask employees these days, or employers, and it does not matter what industry, but finding and retaining a qualified workforce is going to be top 3, regardless of what industry they're in, how large they are. And Career Ready Tempe does a lot of work towards that. So a partnership with the city, as well as with our local schools. And so rising juniors and seniors have an opportunity to take an internship during the summer, 6-week internship, and it is paid through our foundation. So better than minimum wage in terms of payment for most people that this is their first time having experience working. Our Business Academy is a program that we've had that has courses from everything from sales and marketing to business management to trying to think of a few that I might be missing, IT support, and we usually will poll our members. So this is something that it will evolve over the years. AI is a growing topic, and so we'll have that in part of our program. And then on the other part of that, our Rio Salado College partnership, that's the Tempe Workforce Skills Accelerator. We had a 2-year study that essentially commissions through the chamber and through Rio Salado College that showed that there was huge vacancies and needs in terms of skills. There was gaps both in what used to be soft skills, now looked at 21st century skills, but also some of the more firm skills for people to be able to promote within. And so this program allows for stackable micro-credentials for people to take classes at daytime, nighttime, weekends, to be able to advance their careers. And thanks to a partnership with Amazon, we've been able to underwrite the cost so that none of our businesses in the community have the financial impact of saying, we want to participate, we have a need, but we're not able to because of the cost. So we're proud of that and trying to grow that into year 2. And then just visions for the future as a whole. We're looking at a clean energy webinar, and I mentioned about the report that we will be submitting soon back to the city and then also to council, utilizing opportunities of our sustainability committee to take the show on the road, if you will, to educate a little bit more about our our sustainability pledge, and also to learn more about best practices that are out there. And as always, advocating for pro-business policies, and just looking at additional opportunities for workforce skills. So some of the programs that already exist within the city, looking at how we can both leverage and support those and get more of our employers involved. So happy to answer any questions. Hopefully that wasn't too much information too quickly. I tend to speak rather briskly.
It was great. Vice Mayor, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I just want to say another great presentation today, and I really appreciate everyone going to such hard work to do these presentations. So thank you.
Thank you.
Colin, just a comment, and I'm going to ask Tim Gomez to maybe come up with the name of this. At ASU, there is that circular manufacturing. It might be at Poly, but there was an article recently about skateboards made by repurposed materials.
Plastics and...
Yes, the plastics and the reuse, adaptive reuse of the materials. That may be interesting for your sustainability committee, just simply because it's in our neighborhood and it's interesting. So maybe we'll find that connection, and maybe that's something if they want to go check it out.
Definitely happy to pursue that. And something I realize right now that I didn't mention, the Good Jobs, Great Cities initiative the city is a part of and we're involved with. We convened manufacturers, I believe it was February 6th, and coming up later in the month, we have a larger convening of folks in advanced manufacturing, and that's the part of the piece is to look at what's being done here, what are the organizations and companies that might be able to work together in terms of streamlining access to resources, and like you mentioned, adaptive reuse. I did see that article. We haven't connected with them yet, but I definitely will make a point, and I'll tag Tim in the process.
And that would influence, as many ideas do, right? We go through different departments and industries, but that also would influence, that information gained could help influence what we need to update some of our existing old manufacturing facilities. Absolutely.
Right. And it's become a point that it's not a secret that people tend to look to Tempe for innovation. And so that was the one theme that kept coming out of what we were doing with this advanced manufacturing, is that there are some within their own silos and their industries. They're doing a lot of great practices, but across the board are looking for collaborative solutions. So it's exciting because we've got the great work the city's done and partners like Rio Salado College and ASU and a myriad of businesses. So looking forward to that, and I appreciate that suggestion.
Yep, great. Thank you so much, Colin.
Thank you.
Next, we have item 4A3, a review of our Sustainability and Economic Vitality Council Committee work plan. And for this, we have our very own council assistants, Ty Lee and Brooke St. George. They'll be presenting to us.
Thank you, Councilmember Chin and Vice Mayor Adams online. Good afternoon. My name is Brooke St. George, Council Assistant, and I am joined by my colleague, fellow Council Assistant Ty Lee. We're here today to present you with an updated Sustainability and Economic Vitality Council Committee work plan for the fiscal year 24-25. The previous version of this plan for fiscal year 23-24 was approved by this committee on December 12, 2022, and approved by council consensus at the work study session on January 12, 2023.
I will briefly remind you of the contents of the previously approved work plan. The primary objective of the committee is to ensure Tempe develops and promotes innovative programs, infrastructure, and policies that foster a sustainable, resilient, and economically vibrant community for both residents and businesses. This will remain the primary objective of the fiscal year 24-25 work plan. The names of your committee liaisons will, of course, be updated. The work plan sets forth 4 priorities for this council committee, 2 focused on sustainability and 2 focused on economic vitality. Overall, these stated priorities will not change, with the exception of some updated language, as Brooke will explain later. What will change are some of the bullet points under each priority as we evaluated what was still applicable, what needed to be removed, and what needed to be added. The Tempe City Council's direction and priorities have been clearly identified in the city's strategic plan, where they have identified 5 strategic priorities. 1 strategic priority, sustainable growth and development, and another, financial stability and vitality, are the focus of this council committee. In particular, this committee identified the following performance measures as areas of focus as seen on this slide. As you can see in the following slides, these are the topics that have been presented before this committee since the approval of the 22-23 work plan. These presentations have varied in scope, ranging from Tempe's diverse water portfolio, bike and pedestrian improvement projects on our city streets, and several updates from our Economic Development Department.
For the updated 24-25 work plan, this committee's primary objective remains the same: to ensure Tempe develops and promotes innovative programs, infrastructure, and policies that foster a sustainable, resilient, and economically vibrant community for both residents and businesses. Co-chairs remain Vice Mayor Jennifer Adams and Councilmember Arlene Chin. The new liaisons to this committee are Council Assistant Ty Lee and myself, Council Assistant Brooke St. George. While the stated priorities remain the same, some of the bullet points below each priority have been updated to remove projects that have concluded or to update the language regarding the state of ongoing projects, particularly to show the support of the adoption of the International Green Construction Code, which is now mandatory for all city construction projects. It remains voluntary for private development. While it remains voluntary for private development, this committee will continue to support its expansion and adoption. We would also like to focus on the intersection between sustainability, transportation, and economic stability more in the coming year, and look forward to hearing those presentations in upcoming council committee meetings. We've updated the language of priority C in particular to be more inclusive and to align with economic development's designation of innovation hubs in Tempe. We've also removed item C3 what was previously item C3, due to the completion of the County Island annexation project. Redevelopment in that area will come before council as with all other developments in the city. I would also like to point out that we have added in C4 a few of our key partners who are here today, Tempe Chamber of Commerce and ASU, as well as the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, just to include our partnership, and we look forward to more work with them in the coming year. Based on the presentations made in the past year before this committee and recent changes to the city's organizational structure, as well as the wording of certain performance measures, we've updated the priorities list. Under strategic priority, sustainable growth and development, we've added the following performance measures. 4.04, solid waste landfill diversion, which is something we'd like to recommend this committee hear more about in the 24-25 fiscal year. We've updated the language on measure 4.11 to include tree and shade canopy, and added 4.16, groundwater supply, after hearing two incredible presentations on Tempe's water supply and water conservation efforts from Tina Sleeper in our Public Works Department. We believe this issue will become increasingly important and require more council focus in the coming years. Under strategic priority number 5, financial stability and vitality, we've added performance measure 5.13, unemployment rate. Thanks to the strong reports coming out of our economic development department, the goal for Tempe's unemployment rate is to stay under 4%, and we are currently at 3.9%. Thank you for your time and attention today. We're happy to answer any questions you may have. If there are none, we'd like to request that we move forward with approval of these updates to the Sustainability and Economic Vitality Council Committee Work Plan.
Well, thank you very much. That was very thorough. Vice Mayor, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I just want to thank Ty and Brooke for a great presentation, and really appreciate your help. And I like it that you set the tone for our direction, and I'm excited to continue this committee in the future. Thank you, Ms. Chin, Council Member Chin.
Great. Vice Mayor Adams, I leave it to you now. Do you have a motion for me to approve the updated SEV Council Committee Work Plan?
Yes, I do. If there's no objections, I move that we approve the updated SEV Council Committee Work Plan with any changes you might recommend, Councilmember Chin. And I don't have any recommendations for changes.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. I don't have any changes. I have no objections either, and I second that motion. So the 2024 Sustainability and Economic Vitality Work Plan is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move ahead to item 4B, new items for consideration. I believe we have one new item, 4B1, presentation proposals for future council committee meetings. Vice Mayor Adams, do you have any updates you'd like to see at the next SEV committee meeting?
No, I have no updates at this point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me throw this out here, and it hasn't been processed fully. And the two people I would lean on to help me shape it aren't here because of the big festival that's going on outside. I am wondering if we can get some updates, and it doesn't have to be in one presentation, but they can be ongoing after bigger events like Tempe Blooms, the innings and the extra innings festivals. Once we're through spring training, once we're past the Aloha Festival, there are some larger events in our community that impact the lives of many people and draw a lot of people into Tempe. And I think it would be interesting and educational for us to learn about the impact of those events. So I can work with staff to sort of shape, but that's really the essence. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Councilmember Chin. Yes, we're happy to include those updates on future presentations.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to item 4C, announcements. Vice Mayor Adams, do you have any announcements today?
No, I have no announcements today. Thank you very much.
My one announcement is very simple. If you look out the windows, the Mill Avenue Arts Festival is happening this weekend, and the weather is great. Thank you to Colin Diaz and the Chamber of Commerce weather that we have for the weekend. It's a great time to go out there and support artists and the people that bring great food and snacks to the art festival also. Our next council committee meeting is scheduled for Friday, April 19th, 2024. I would like to thank everyone for being here today, both virtually and in person. And with that, we are adjourned at 1:39 p.m.